Major news this morning says the president is set to issue an executive order for that $300 billion, but before you get excited, it may not be for stimulus. And Nancy Pelosi has indicated her next focus over the next couple weeks is passing a pot bill. As if this couldn't get any crazier, the Republicans are expected to cush that effort as well. Hey, good morning. It's morning's LALATE. It's Friday morning. You made it to the weekend. I'm here. You're here. And guess where Republicans and Democrats are in Congress? Well, they're not answering your questions about what happened to the stimulus bill from Mitch McConnell yesterday. More about that in a second. It's here Friday in Los Angeles on morning's LALATE that starts every day at 8:30 Pacific Standard Time. Part of our 3.5-hour programming schedule here every day on LALATE. I'm really blessed for you to join me. Thank you so much. If today was a day to subscribe to this channel and like this video, I would appreciate it. And first, as a personal note, there's incredible ash in the sky. It's unhealthful air here in Los Angeles. The Bobcat fire has now encompassed the entire skies of Southern California. People are actually advised to stay inside, so I don't know if I'll be filming afternoons LALATE outside. But please understand there may be a strange haze or colorization in this recording because there is no light in the sky. There is no sunlight. All there is dark ash. So understand the nature of which I'm filming today. Finally, later in this video, a 9/11 tribute. Let me get to the incredible details this morning, minutes ago, and I have them all over the place. First, details about that executive order that's being floated. Second, reaction but from two senators about what happened yesterday. Third, a shockingly inspiring new report that Democrats reached out to Nancy Pelosi yesterday and said, you have to do something right away. You can't keep on doing what you're doing. That's really quite interesting. And finally, more about that analyst economics report from yesterday. Let's get to the incredible great news. So, as we sit here today, all eyes and focus remain on one place and one person. It's the White House and Donald Trump. The president has upwards of $500 billion in COVID-19 funds for him to use by executive order. This channel is exclusively reporting. That's $300 billion he identified last week, and an additional $200 to $250 billion this channel has located that the president could use for executive orders that would encompass both stimulus checks and an extension of FPUC. They're desperately needed as all stimulus talks for purposes of legislative action, that is Congress, are apparently stalled at the moment. There's hope and still promise that the president will do executive orders, and as I've been reported, he has to, otherwise will not be reelected. An executive order for stimulus checks would follow something like this: $1,200 for single individuals, $2,400 for married couples, and then based upon the president's prior floating of tweets, comments, interviews, all consistent from the month of June all the way up to the present, it would probably be $500 for dependents up to a family of about 4. And we don't know whether or not he would take out for child support. Democrats don't. Republicans have done once before in the past. All dependents would get a stimulus check, which is really incredible. This is great news compared to the last time under the CARES Act, but it may not be a full $1,200. It may only be $500. Next, we know that there's enough funds available. The president said on Friday, $300 billion, of which it's not in Treasury. It's money that's currently in an agency for a program that has expired under CARES Act 1. So the president seeks to repurpose that money and send it out. He can do it. He has the authority. He doesn't need act of Congress to do it. This is incredible, great news. The turnaround time could be very, very fast. You know, when we talk about IRS's routing times to send out money, 10 days, if it's, for example, in SBA, which is where I think it is, the money can be sent out even faster. SBA can send out money literally within 24 hours or 48 hours. They have fast processing tools. The manner in which it would reach you is still up for debate. The president has been a real has real good art as to figuring out how to send out money from agencies you would never expect to be sending you out money, like FEMA. But there we go. More about FEMA minutes from now, but let me tell you what's happening with LWA and FPUC. Well, FPUC 1 has expired. FPUC 2 is at the moment dead because there's no act of Congress getting it going and no vote about it. And LWA, that $300 per week created by the executive order of the president, over about 4 weeks ago, FEMA now reports that the states that applied and have been approved will get 6 weeks of benefits. They're not going to get 7, and that's about it. So really great news is it appears that everyone's going to get 6 weeks of benefits. They will maybe be stalled in some states, but you're going to get 6 times $300, $1,800. And if you're in Kentucky, Montana, Vermont, and West Virginia, I think I remember all of them, and maybe I'm missing one, you will get 6 times 100. You'll get $600 on top of that, because those are the states that agreed to give $100 on top of that. Now, as we talk about executive orders, another issue of great news is that the president has enough funds to also do another round of LWA. Those funds additionally identified on this channel could be repurposed for an extension of LWA, and there's 2 ways he could do it, as I'm only the only channel and the only report covering this. He can use the executive order that's already in place, doesn't have to write another executive order, and just refund it with the current funds that could be repurposed for another round of LWA, or he could do another executive order if he so chooses. How long would that LWA funds cover us? It's really not clear. It would cover us for a couple weeks. I don't know if it'll cover us all the way to December, but it is some relief. So as we sit here today, there's that. But then there's this. A lot of incredible news today. Some of it great, some of it confusing, and some of it what the hell? First of all, pot bills. First of all, the Washington Post says that the White House is considering executive action to use the $300 billion he indicated on Friday and send it out by executive action. Pause, don't celebrate, sit down, stop getting up and dancing, because you're not going to like the remainder of this article. The article says that the president is considering using the $300 billion from Friday that we thought was going to be for stimulus checks for the airline industry. Really? Come on now. Stop that. Don't do that. Yes, he will be helping the airlines. We have to help the airlines. It's a tough business as always, he said on September 1. Airlines are a tough business. It's good times, and we're about to get back to good times. They're still hurting bad. None of them are making any money. They're losing it all like crazy. Now, let me clarify this article, because there's a lot of superlatives in it, so it's like, okay, what am I reading here? First of all, the Washington Post just cites an outsider that says the president is mulling an executive order for airlines and using the $300 billion, just sort of like this channel's reporting that the president's mulling using the $300 billion for stimulus checks. There's only one difference. And this is where the purple power comes in. It's purple power versus the airline lobbyists. Yes, the airline lobbyists are cited all over this article as really aggressively lobbying everyone in Washington to send out this money to airlines. So as with the purple power, you need to step up the game and hit that Twitter and hit that Facebook and hit that Instagram and just share these videos and hit the president and say, with tags, not physically, thank you, say, hey, send out stimulus checks. Don't give it to airlines first. Send it for stimulus checks. Of course, there's Robert Martinez, who you're not going to want to like, president of the International Association of Machinists and Aerospace. The airlines are in need of desperate assistance from Congress. We need help. Director for Economic Research at Nevada says the recovery is slow. It's slow. And White House Chief of Staff Mark Meadows has said that the president is looking ways to help the air industries. Well, Mark Meadows also said you're going to have a stimulus checks in this week's bill. So let's keep it real, right? This is that. Okay, now let's turn to LWA. LWA, Associated Press, major report issued minutes ago, says that FEMA will be covering 6 weeks, and that's it. The agency is providing money to cover 6 weeks from the start of August through the end of this week, with no extension in sight. So let me repeat that. LWA will cover retroactively to the end of July, all the week, well, the first week of August, however you call it, all the way to this week, and that is it, 6 weeks. Tennessee, Texas, and Montana are no longer receiving benefits, but they will get the 6 weeks. All right. Reaction comes in from yesterday's bill, but more about that in a second. Let me turn to this one, which I really like. This is really the promising news of this morning as we start off Friday morning, get ready for the weekend. There is a new push among Democrats to get the Temple of Doom to get off her keister and get something done other than the HEROES Act. And guess who's behind it? A familiar face, Steny Hoyer. If his name sounds familiar, there was a whole group of people in the Blue Dog Democrats and I always call them the New Age Democrats. It's the hardest name for me to remember. I just keep on thinking it's like a Tiesto trance song. It's just, I just have this visual of these senators walking with glow sticks saying, Nancy, Nancy. It's like, Nancy got to do some stimulus. It's a very hard name for this organization, but there's a lot of them in this organization. It's about 300 Democrats, and they wrote Nancy Pelosi before saying you can't keep on doing this path. It ain't going to work. Well, on yesterday, Democrats had a caucus call. Say that 10 times fast. Caucus call. And on it was Senate Majority Leader Steny Hoyer, Democrat, who raised to fellow Democrats during this call the idea of passing another relief bill in the coming weeks. Boy. Of course, the answer is, what's going on in the next few weeks? How about tomorrow? How about yesterday, Steny? But Pelosi and Senator Chuck Schumer were on the phone call, and, guess what they did? I mean, you could finish the sentence. They shot down the idea, saying that Democrats need to stay united, and argued their wait-and-see approach. This was actually the quote from Pelosi. I am not doing this for a joke. Pelosi says, we don't want to go home without a bill. We don't want to be a cheap date. I'm sorry, at this point, no one's really interested in going on any date with Nancy Pelosi. I could say a lot, but I'm just not going to say it. You can drop in the comments below. If Nancy Pelosi offered to be a cheap date with you, what would you say? That's our morning question of Friday morning. Nancy Pelosi says we don't want to go home without a bill, but we don't want to be a cheap date. I can actually feel smoke coming in now. It's not from the Temple of Doom, it's from the smoke here. Okay, as if this wasn't even more crazy, on a Friday morning, and as if there was not enough smoke in the air, I have more smoke for you. From Nancy Pelosi's office, they're doing a pot bill, and that's their top priority now. Oh my God, I have to cush these stories right away. But the anxiety, I gotta read, this is a quote from Politico. But the adding to the anxiety among frontliners, the House, and this is Democrats, the House is scheduled to vote on a bill this month legalizing marijuana. And vulnerable House Democrats are worried about the optics of addressing weed, but not the pandemic, which they fear could fuel a barrage of GOP attack ads in the final weeks before the election, despite the marijuana measure being widely praised as a step towards justice. What has the Democrats done for you this fall? Postal bill and a pot bill. There was another P in there. I forgot. There was a PPP. Yeah, not that PPP, but postal and pot. The new Democratic Party reelect us this fall. Boy, now over in the Senate, Senator Shelley Moore Capito and Joe Manchin, who are Republicans and Democrats, both spoke out yesterday and really had strong reaction to what happened yesterday. The reaction was slightly different. Manchin says it was hard to vote against what happened yesterday, but had I not voted against what happened in a earlier vision, a draft of the CARES Act, West Virginians would not have gotten $1.2 billion in state and local funding. See this, the familiar theme we have going on here? As you start a Friday morning, the important things to remember actually are not so much what Temple Doom, Mark Meadows, Steve Mnuchin are saying or not saying. Ironically, again, I have to sort of remind you that people who said you were going to get a stimulus check this week in a bill and approved next week, Mark Meadows, Steve Mnuchin, Larry Kudlow, Donald Trump, multiple times, repeated times on the record with a video camera rolling and a videotape, and we can treat the image, have literally disappeared. There has been no interviews by these people about stimulus since 3 days ago. So it's really quite surprising that the people who told you you're going to get a lot of wonderful things have now run for the hills. I've not run for the hills. You've not run for the hills. We're waiting here for some relief. So you really need to step up the Purple Power online. Finally, some details this morning about what's going on in the elsewhere for that impact stimulus. Unemployment numbers are bad. Labor numbers are bad. Real estate market's getting horrific. Evictions are proceeding in some record for people in different ways. And the stock market is slowly starting to implode. All these optics now show that we are not in a V-shaped recovery, that this president can't talk us out of economic downturn. He can't continually tell us, oh, everything's wonderful, everything's wonderful, everything's wonderful, because it's simply not true. And the more that people see things that are untrue, the more they're just not going to sit back and not do anything. Whether it's homeless embankments on the corner, or massive downturns of stocks for rich people, or seeing evictions across the country, or understanding even that some of the stores are now more empty and there's vacancies and people not going into stores and buying things. It's that sort of optics that's coming out. And it's people like this, a hideously, insanely stupid article yesterday from Goldman Sachs, a leading brokerage firm in the country, that said, hey, America's doing so great and we're all spending so much money. It's just looking beyond the quarter. We expect to remain upbeat on growth. We also expect a continued vaccine early next year. We expect a lot of continued growth for Q4 and beyond. Yeah, sure you do. No one buys that crap. No one buys that crap. The unemployment numbers that came out this week are not good. And I got to tell you, if you look at them and analyze them, you see what's happening is that in California, 40% of the labor workforce is unemployed. And the reason why is because a lot of businesses are still under shutdown, lockdown, whether it's gyms or it's in-house, in-store dining, however you phrase it, or some retail. And that's going to happen in other parts of this country as lockdowns are going to be reissued as the winter months come in. As it happens, where's the stimulus? There's no stimulus. You don't wait for stimulus before things get worse. And things are very, very bad right now, fully understand. But for purposes of optics, people think that they can sort of float it to the election and hope that it doesn't look so bad and that people won't say, where's my stimulus? And that they'll talk more about a Bob Woodward book than where is stimulus. Ultimately, you need to remain motivated and positive because it's really going to happen. I really do think an executive order is going to happen because there's no way this man can get reelected as president if he doesn't do a stimulus check executive order and doesn't do something with enhanced unemployment benefits right away. Finally, this morning, a personal note, 9/11 is today. And everyone has their own moment of reflection on 9/11. As a person who went to school for college, undergraduate and graduate school, one graduate school of my lifetime was in New York, I was able to feel and endure the events of that morning. I was not in New York when it happened, but I was here in Los Angeles, younger, and I was actually It was early morning here in Los Angeles, and ironically, it's a little bit like today. I was on set, I was recording, but I was not before the camera, behind the camera, and my cast and crew was coming in on a show. I was then, at the time, the first person to put streaming video on the internet with a company called Television Internet, and I was behind the camera, and we saw what was happening on the television set in the studio, and we simply were unable to record that day. And after that, some viewers were some cast members were just too distraught for days on end to come back to recording. It impacted people in all different types of ways, and for someone who myself had seen so much pain and up and down in that city over the years, this was a moment that we'll never forget. So with that, if you have a 9/11 moment that you want to remember or share with us, drop in the comments. I'd love to hear it. Go to the Feathers channel and hit the subscribe and alert button. The subscribe button is on the left and it's on the right. And I have a thing I'm going to have to look up today. I keep on talking about that red button next to it, and some people say they don't see the red button. I only see the red button, so I have no idea what's going on. I have to look that up. I may have been screwing up everything for 2 weeks. I don't know. But I do see your red buttons. I don't know if you see your red button, so I have no idea what the hell's going on. I'm still figuring out how this damn thing works. Can you imagine? 3.5 weeks, 3.5 months into it, I'm just still not sure how this thing works here. Hopefully I'll figure it out soon. I hope you see the red heart, though. The purple heart. I mean, the purple heart is when you're a top commenter and I like you a lot. I hope you see the purple heart. I just don't know. Maybe I'll have to sign out and watch the channel not signed in. I'll figure it out. And finally, like this video. It really helps in the algorithm. Yesterday's video on mornings got about 15,000 likes, so I really quite appreciate it. Finally, keep the thoughts of the people in the California fires in your hearts and prayers. I am not near them, but the fire smoke is intense. If you're in Southern California, please do not go out for any extended period of time, and please understand the situation in which I was filming this morning as well. Coming up this afternoon's LALATE start at 3:30 Pacific Standard Time with the check, then FPUC, then Hazard Pay, then FPUC, and then rent, and finally evening's LALATE start at 6:30 Pacific Standard Time. All times just add 3 hours on top of that for Eastern Standard Time. As always, stay informed, stay motivated, stay positive, stay focused, and stay with LA for more.